Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Global Brief. It is August 21st, 2025. You know, when you look at today's headlines, it can feel like you're caught in a storm of just random information. But I promise you, there is a pattern in all that chaos. And today, we're going to find it together.
So let's start with a big question. Is all this news just noise? Or is it something more? For this explainer, I want you to imagine the entire world is one massive, incredibly complex, and absolutely fascinating chessboard. Seriously, picture it. Every single headline we're about to cover, all 18 of them, they're not just random events. No, each one is a deliberate move, a calculated play by a world leader, a defensive reaction from a rival, or maybe, just maybe, a completely unpredictable wild card that comes out of nowhere and changes the entire board.
So, here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to look at the great powers game, the big players. Then, we'll zoom right in on the global flashpoints, where the pieces are actually clashing. After that, we'll take a look at the politics back home, because every player, and I mean every player, has to protect their king. And finally, we'll get to my favorite part, the wild cards and human moves that absolutely nobody sees coming. Ready? Let's dive in.
All right, first up, the grandmasters. We're talking about the big dogs. Russia, the US, China, Japan. These aren't just countries making policy announcements. These are strategists carefully placing their pieces on the board, making those crucial opening moves that are going to set the tone for the entire global game. Okay, let's start with a move from Russia that is just dripping with audacity. Right in the middle of these incredibly sensitive peace talks about Ukraine's future, Moscow isn't just at the negotiating table. Oh no, they are demanding veto power over any security deal that Ukraine makes down the road. Just let that sink in for a second. They want the final say on the defense of the very country they're in conflict with. And as if that wasn't enough, they're also insisting that their ally China has to be a co-signer on any agreement. See, this isn't just about ending today's fight. This is a massive strategic play to control the rules of tomorrow's peace.
And this quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? Moscow is trying to write the rules and be the referee for a game it's still playing. To put it more bluntly, this is like a star quarterback in the middle of the Super Bowl, jogging over to the sideline, grabbing the official rulebook, and scribbling in a new rule that says only his team is allowed to score. It is a bold, almost theatrical power play that is designed to fundamentally reshape the security of Europe for decades to come. It's really something else.
Meanwhile, across the world, the US is making a very different kind of move, but one that is just as strategic, just on its own home board. President Trump has ordered a complete top-down review of the iconic Smithsonian museums. Now, the official reason he's giving is that he thinks they focus way too much on the negative parts of American history, things like slavery. He wants to pivot the entire national story towards what he is calling American brightness. This is a classic move in the culture wars. It's a play to control the nation's story. Because, let's face it, whoever controls the past gets a huge say in the present. It's all about deciding which historical pieces get to be queens and which ones stay as pawns on that American chessboard.
Now let's shift our focus to China, because they are playing a fascinating two-front game right now. On one side, externally, its top diplomat is in Afghanistan, getting really cozy with the Taliban. While most of the West is keeping them at arm's length, China smells a huge opportunity. They see a strategic vacuum just waiting to be filled, a chance to lock down mineral resources and, crucially, stabilize their western border. But at the very same time, President Xi makes an incredibly rare and very high-profile visit to Tibet. And trust me, this is no vacation. It is a raw display of political power, a carefully staged event to reinforce Beijing's absolute, unquestionable authority over a region that has historically been quite defiant. So you see the strategy. Expand your influence abroad while you tighten the screws at home.
And boom, right on cue, just as China makes its move, we see a direct counterplay from its rival, Japan. Tokyo has just put a cool $5.5 billion on the table. And for what? To create a brand new economic zone that stretches all the way from Africa to the Indian Ocean. Let's be crystal clear about what this is. It is a direct challenge to China's massive Belt and Road Initiative. The source material is calling it the new scramble for Africa, and that is spot on. But this time, the competition isn't being fought with flags and soldiers. It's being fought with infrastructure loans, trade deals, and economic partnerships. Japan is placing a very big, very expensive piece on the board to challenge China's growing dominance in the region.
Okay, so we've seen the grandmasters lay out their big opening strategies. Now, let's zoom in on the parts of the board where those pieces are actually bumping up against each other. These are the flashpoints. This is where things get tense, where one clumsy move could escalate the entire game. And believe me, the friction is red hot, and it's happening right on NATO's doorstep.
A Russian drone has just crashed in eastern Poland. Now, Polish officials are not calling this an accident. No, the term they're using is a deliberate provocation. And what makes this so incredibly spicy is the timing. It happened right in the middle of those super sensitive peace talks we were just talking about. This is the international equivalent of just poking your opponent in the chest again and again and again just to see when they'll finally snap. It's a really high-risk, high-reward move, and it's clearly meant to test NATO's nerve and try to sow some division.
And that heat is rising across the Atlantic too. The US has just dispatched warships to the coast of Venezuela. Now, officially, the mission is to fight drug cartels, but let's be real for a second. You don't send this kind of heavy military hardware to stop a few speedboats. This is a massive show of force against a rival government, right in its own backyard. It really is like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. The move sends a very loud, very unsubtle message and dramatically raises the stakes for any kind of miscalculation in an already incredibly tense part of the world.
All of this tension is causing some major ripple effects. I mean, just look at New Zealand, a country that's famous for its fiercely independent foreign policy. They've just announced a $3 billion military upgrade, and the stated goal? To improve their ability to work seamlessly with allies like Australia. This is a really, really big deal. It just goes to show that as the global chessboard gets more and more unstable, especially in the Indo-Pacific, even the players who have historically tried to stay independent are feeling the pressure to pick a team and seriously strengthen their defenses.
You know, every great chess master understands that you can't just focus on your opponent's side of the board. You have to make sure your own king is safe. So now, we're going to turn to the internal games, where these leaders are dealing with scandals, power grabs, and all sorts of political drama right on their own home turf.
And over in Brazil, a major political drama is reaching its endgame. The police have now formally accused former President Jair Bolsonaro of not only plotting a coup, but of actively planning his getaway. Apparently, they found a draft asylum request on his phone, already addressed to Argentina. This is basically the political equivalent of investigators finding a suspect's packed suitcase and a one-way ticket hidden under their bed. It's a very powerful move by the authorities, presenting what they say is evidence of an escape plan in an attempt to put Bolsonaro in political checkmate once and for all.
Now this is really interesting. Here we get to see two very different kinds of political fights playing out at the same time. Over in Texas, Republicans have just approved a new voting map that critics are screaming is a textbook case of gerrymandering. That's a political move to secure power for the future by literally redrawing the electoral board to favor your own pieces. At the same time, in South Africa, a government minister is in some serious hot water over old, racist slurs that were found on social media. So you have one politician trying to rig the future, while another is being haunted by their digital past. It's a perfect illustration of the old and the new ways a political career can be made or completely broken.
And here, we have a move that seems to be born of pure desperation. The military junta that's running Burkina Faso has just kicked a top United Nations official right out of the country. And why? Well, it happened right after the UN published a horrifying report that detailed child abuse being committed by government forces. The play here is brutally simple. If you don't like what the referee is seeing, you just kick the referee off the field. It's a clumsy, blatant attempt to control the story by simply silencing anyone who dares to tell the truth.
So, we've seen the strategies, we've seen the clashes, we've seen the internal politics, but you know, no game is ever completely predictable. Now we come to my favorite part, the wild cards. These are the forces of nature, the unexpected consequences of our own actions, and those incredible moments of the human spirit that can just flip the entire board over when you least expect it. On this slide, we have three very different but equally powerful stories, and they all share a common theme. They remind us that there are forces out there bigger than politics. First, the raw, awesome power of nature. Hurricane Erin, an absolute monster of a storm, 500 miles wide, is just pounding the US East Coast. It's a humbling reminder that no matter how clever our strategies are, Mother Nature always has the most powerful piece on the board. Second, the unintended power of humanity. A new study shows that tourism is polluting Antarctica and actually speeding up the snowmelt. We're loving one of the last pristine places on Earth to death. And third, the quiet power of time. Samuel Gutman, Colombia's last known Holocaust survivor, has passed away at the age of 100. And every time a survivor leaves us, a door to living history closes forever.
And let's just stick with that Antarctica story for a second, because this chart is just stunning. It shows that heavy metal pollution in the snow down there is now 10 times higher than it was just 40 years ago. 10 times. And what's so wild about this is that it's largely being caused by the ships and the planes that are bringing people there to see its beauty. It's the sad, painful irony that the very act of appreciating this pristine environment is helping to destroy it.
But you know, amidst all the heavy news, the human spirit makes some absolutely incredible moves of its own. On one hand, you have pure explosive genius. A 10-year-old girl, Bodhana Sivanandan, just became the youngest female in history to defeat a chess grandmaster. A prodigy in the truest sense of the word. And then, on the other hand, you have this mind-boggling endurance. A Brazilian goalkeeper named Fabio just set a new world record by playing in his 1,391st official match. A flash of brilliance versus a lifetime of dedication. It's just a beautiful testament to the incredible range of human potential.
And we'll end our tour of the board today with a move that feels like a win for absolutely everybody. The government of Denmark is completely getting rid of its 25% tax on books. The goal couldn't be simpler: make reading cheaper and more popular. I mean, in an age where we are all just drowning in streaming services and social media feeds, this is a government making a deliberate, strategic play to support literacy and culture. As the source material cheekily puts it, it's a government plot we can all get behind. Your move, Netflix.
So, we've surveyed the entire board. We've seen the Grandmasters maneuver, the flashpoints ignite, the leaders fighting tough battles back home, and the wild cards that defy all strategy. We've seen that every single headline is a move, and every move has a consequence. Which of course brings the question back to you. As an observer of this complex, chaotic, and fascinating global game, what is your next move?
You know, our goal here is simple. It's to connect the dots and give you just the facts, free from bias or any emotional spin, so that you can form your own clear understanding of what's happening in the world.
If you value this approach, please follow us on Spotify and YouTube to get this explainer every single morning at 8 a.m. GMT. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until tomorrow, keep asking questions.